You're listening to the No Bullshit Vegan Podcast, episode 186. Izzy Jacobus is here to chat about his business journey, including running a vegan menswear brand, working in a vegan medical clinic, and now owning a gym in New York City.
Welcome to the No Bullshit Vegan Podcast. Myth-busting and evidence-based advice to help you kick butt with your health and fitness on a vegan diet. Here's your host, Karina Inkster.
Hey, welcome to the show. I'm Karina, your go-to no BS vegan fitness and nutrition coach. As we approach the end of 2024, you might be making some plans and setting some goals for 2025. So if strength training and leveling up your nutrition are on that list, make sure you check out our coaching programs at karinainkster.com/coaching. Since 2011, my team and I have helped about 1,000 clients in 15 countries to eat delicious plant-based meals that fuel their training, get super strong, and love their bodies. If you are ready to skyrocket your strength, body composition, and vegan superpowers, of course, we are for you. Go to karinainkster.com/coaching for more info. Introducing my guest today, Izzy Jacobus. Izzy is a personal trainer with a certification from the National Academy of Sports Medicine and nutrition coach with certifications from the Nutritarian Education Institute and Precision Nutrition. After holding a position at Brooklyn Nurse Practitioners Clinic, a vegan medical clinic, as their nutrition counselor, he started the Workout Plant to continue helping local clients in Brooklyn, New York, and online clients around the world pursue their fitness and health goals. Izzy is also a founder of Vegans of New York, the largest vegan community in NYC, and creator of Animals First on the Second, a global animal advocacy organization. Izzy's favorite vegan meal is mapo tofu. Here's our discussion. Hey, Izzy, thanks so much for speaking with me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. I'm excited.
Me too. For the folks listening, we've been connected on Facebook for what seems like forever, but we've never actually had a face-to-face chat. So I'm very stoked.
This is true. Definitely a few years. I don't know how long though either.
It's been a while, so it's about time. First of all, very important question for you.
Yeah.
New cat, new kitten. What's the deal?
I do have a new cat. So election day was highs and lows, let's just say. So election day was like I did a couple clients here. I went and voted, and then we ran to Ridgewood, Brooklyn, which is 2 neighborhoods over, to pick up a little polydactyl
I noticed that.
street cat.
Aww.
With the biggest hands and the pointiest nose. And yeah, it's amazing. So it was the night was filled with lots of laughing and maybe a little bit of crying from the Trump debacle that America has recently gone through.
Don't even get me started. Get me started.
Maybe we shouldn't start. Maybe we shouldn't.
Well, you know what? I saw a really good term. I'm up in Canada, of course, on Threads. Everyone was using the term emotional support Canadian. Like, I'm going to be your emotional support Canadian. I'm like, okay, so that's basically what I am for anyone who needs it, FYI. Just get in touch.
Yeah. I think, honestly, as sad as this sounds, I've been in various forms of social justice and activism since I was young and very engaged with different important things. But at this point, sadly to say, I feel like I'm just going to use my New York white male privilege and stick my head in the sand like an ostrich for the next 4 years and stop watching MSNBC, stop engaging on certain social media platforms, and just use my New York Times app to curate my engagement with the news, as it's just going to be a constant stream of crazy that there's nothing you can really do about. It's all inexplicable weirdness that just flip-flops and changes so much. You get, outrage fatigue over shit that they're not even going to be talking about an hour later. They used to say The news cycle is like a week long, and now it's like every 5 minutes we have 4 more headlines of crazy.
Yeah. We have to preserve our own sanity, and I feel like you do a lot in the vegan world. Activism is something that we can talk about for sure, but just being the poster dude of veganism, running a gym. I mean, there's a lot of things that we do in our day-to-day life that maybe isn't seen as quote activism, but actually is, and is making a difference and is educating other people.
Sure.
So it's not like we're actually sitting there doing shit all, but I understand specific to the current situation what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much energy you have. There's only so much. And like I said, I just like it feels like pissing in the wind sometimes trying
Mm-hmm.
to fight the battle of misinformation and overt bigotry that just flies around over this stuff. And you don't know what to do about it. And you're wondering, where is my energy used best to affect change or to affect good? And these days it just feels like stay in your lane, do your thing. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot control the world. It's going to be a whirlwind of craziness. And so, yeah, got to limit some of it.
Yep, 100%. Well, tell me about your amazing gym, the workout plant, where you are right now. I can see the background. It's freaking awesome. What's the deal?
Yeah. We're in the middle of actually putting up a giant moss wall, like down the
Cool.
entire I have 14-foot ceilings here, so literally from the ceiling all the way down around this big
How
neon sign.
cool.
So it's a mess in the front right now.
Mm-hmm.
I moved down here from working out of my second bedroom for 5 years,
Wow.
building this business after being the nutrition counselor at a vegan medical clinic, which is about 10 blocks away. I moved away from that to that space and then just here now. So this space is 1,000 square feet. You know, in the beginning when I first started, the vast majority of my clients were vegan. Now most of them are not.
Mm-hmm.
So as you said, kind of functions as a form of advocacy as you start to talk about plant forward or plant focused nutrition, at least for some people. A lot of local vegans and vegetarians find me because they see that and they're already down that path. And some people need a beginning to move down, finding at least plant-based diet information. And then, of course, I do advocacy work that happens in your day-to-day life once a month with one of my campaigns. And so sometimes they'll see me engaging in that. And then we have also conversations about ethics and the ethical implications of exploiting animals and stuff like that. So this is a bigger version of all of that stuff, and the local hipster Williamsburg neighborhood that I'm in is primed for that kind of thing because, we have people that are more open to alternative ideas and are more conscious than many other places in the world. So this is the new space. It's still a work in progress, of course, because it's a lot for one guy.
That's amazing. Well, congrats. That's huge.
Thanks.
That's very exciting. It's kind of cool because a lot of people will ask me, like, oh, so how do you deal with clients who are interested in veganism or who might not even be open to it, not realizing that we only work with vegan clients? So
Gotcha.
People are Googling vegan fitness coach or vegan personal trainer because they know that's what they want, right?
Yeah.
And there's a place for that, of course, because a lot of these folks have had negative experiences with other trainers, like just not getting the nutrition aspect or whatever. But in your case, you're actually exposing folks who might not have been otherwise
Right.
to some of these ideas.
And when I first started in nutrition, I had that thought to go in the direction that you went in, which is find a niche, really stay within that group of people, considering honestly, I think the neighborhood that I live in might be the most vegan neighborhood on the planet. There are tens of thousands of vegans in this neighborhood. I mean, we have
Wow.
3 vegan cheese companies in my neighborhood. We have vegan tattoo shops, a vegan medical clinic, vegan groceries, it's unbelievable. We'll literally laugh at a restaurant that opens up without significant vegan options because it's just silly. You've just not done your market research. But, I was going to go down that path and do some of those things. And as I was the nutrition counselor at Brooklyn Nurse Practitioners, I was also running a vegan clothing line with Joshua Catcher called Brave Gentleman. We had opened up a flagship store 1 block from my home, and it's like the only luxury, sustainable, fair labor, fair trade, luxury vegan menswear line in the world. And so I would say things to him like, it doesn't say vegan anywhere on the sign or outside or anything. And he's like, do you think that I should make it look like it's only for vegans?
Right.
And I would be like, And he'd be like, yeah, of course. All the vegans know. Of course, they'll share it.
That's it.
The community is very ingrained and they'll eat it up. But what about everybody else? So my days were either at the medical clinic or sitting in that store, essentially playing vegan ambassador as people went to world famous Champ's Diner where he started our pop-up, and then coming into this place where I would essentially teach people about sustainability and cruelty-free options all day long. And then, yeah, of course, also talk to every vegan who had a few $100 that needed a really nice pair of shoes or something.
Well, obviously.
So, it's twofold thing. One is it allows me to get lots of different clients of all different kinds, which is great. And the other thing is, it allows me to influence people, as you said, that wouldn't have necessarily already been in that direction.
Mm-hmm. Hey, what is a vegan medical clinic?
Yeah.
I live in a city that has fewer people in it overall than there are vegans in your neighborhood, probably.
Right.
It's very small.
Yeah.
And there are very few medical clinics here. The one where I go, where my doctor is, who's amazing, has one doctor who happens to be vegan. And so she's working with her clients and actually has a copy of one of my books there. But do they brand themselves as a vegan place? Is it kind of like this where people know that it's vegan and they don't use the word? How does it work?
So everybody does kind of ask that question. And no, it's not quite really branded that way, but everybody who works there is vegan.
Mm-hmm.
Every option that we can choose is cruelty-free. So, for instance, when we are dealing with sex education, cruelty-free condoms. When we are choosing furniture for our offices, for the lobby, and for the various rooms that the nurse practitioners were in or I was in, we're choosing cruelty-free furnishings and all that stuff. And in addition to trying to be as cruelty-free as possible, of course, the medical industry makes it nearly impossible to even have an hour's worth of dealing with patients that don't include something that has been tested or something, But
right, yeah, totally.
It was a bunch of vegans, started by a vegan nurse who also owns a vegan tattoo shop. And she's also the first person to spend 10 years or something lobbying the main transfer paper for tattoos company to finally produce transfer paper without lanolin. So she's responsible for that as well, I believe.
Wow.
But yeah, in addition to all that type of stuff, our main goal was to try to angle the system to, first of all, not just write everybody a script.
Mm-hmm.
The idea was to make behavioral change in the forefront rather than I have diabetes. Well, here's your diabetes medication. No, I have diabetes. Here's your diabetes medication. Also, now that you've paid your copay and you're in the building, go in the back and see Izzy.
Yes.
And find a way that if we can change some of your metrics and get you to a place where we can reduce medication or at some point bring you off of this medication. And this, of course, went through to heart disease or any kind of metabolic diseases, or you mentioned anything where we can come up with a lifestyle or behavioral change that could affect that more than just giving you another script and another script and another script. And so the idea was, especially we were on the border of Bushwick and Bed-Stuy, and some of these areas have very underserved communities and people that desperately need help and are not getting help. And so the idea was, look, you made it into the building, you paid your copay. It doesn't cost you anything more to go get some actual help, instead of sick care, actual health care.
Mm-hmm.
That was what the idea was. But vegan because we're vegan and because we tried to make everything as cruelty-free as possible, and then these additional thrusts that we were hoping would have a significant effect on the local population.
That's amazing. How cool is that? Hey, side note, how often do you meet other people who are called Izzy? And was it weird corresponding with the Izzy on my team?
It wasn't that weird. I mean, usually they're female, number one.
Yes.
Usually they are women. But it's in my area of the world, not that unusual. My actual birth name is Ian.
Okay.
Izzy is short for Israel, which is my Hebrew name, even though I'm not religious or anything like that. The first time I was in temple, a rabbi suggested my mother pick a name. He decided Israel might be good, and then that turned into like a stage name. I was a musician all through my being a kid into my 20s and even early 30s, a professional musician. That's what I did for a living. But so anyway, Israel can either be a Jewy name, a Jewish name, which there's lots of in New York, or can very often be a Latin name as well. And there are lots of Latin Israels as well around here.
Interesting.
I had an uncle named Isidore who was also an Izzy.
Right. Well, our Izzy on our team is from Elizabeth, which is also pretty common.
Oh, I've never heard of an Elizabeth who ended up being nicknamed Izzy.
No, maybe not. Yeah, it's not Liz. That would just be odd.
Yeah, that's a good one.
For our Izzy, anyway.
That's a good one. I have a client named Regina, and I was like, I think I want to call you Reggie. I like that, Reggie. Because Gina,
Reggie's
I'm
good.
not going with Gina. I want to do a Reggie.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, people do Reg. I was like, nah, I'm gonna go with Reggie.
Even
so
better.
I wrote Reggie on her little cubby box, and that's what it is.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. Hey, I bought a car yesterday, and I have to think of a name for it because it's a Mini, and you have to name it.
You have to name it Mini?
Any sort of name suggestions?
Uh-huh.
I got to think of a name. It's red and black, which is the only appropriate color scheme in my world.
Red and black Mini.
And it's all electric.
I was going to suggest like a Mr. Magoo or something, like a little person with big eyes, or like.
Oh yeah.
Mostly because.
And it's probably a Mr. something, or like a Sir or a Lord or something,
right.
you know?
I did have a little tiny cat named Mr. Magoo. That was our first cat. So.
Oh, cute.
That's what makes me think of that. But,
that's cute.
If I think of something else throughout the whole thing, I'll blurt out random names.
Please do.
Every
just randomly. Every 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Hey, what's the deal? We got to talk about music because you were a pro musician.
Word.
Playing what? Doing what?
And I want to know about accordions. That's such a fucking weird instrument. That's a weird one, dude. What made you choose accordion?
Okay, I don't know what it is, but I play a lot of weird instruments. So accordion and didgeridoo are my two main things, and those are the ones that I teach.
Didgeridoo's pretty weird too.
It's pretty weird. Yeah. You go to Australia, it's not that weird. Anywhere else, obviously, it's pretty weird.
Is there a place where accordions are not weird? Is that like Belgium or something?
Oh, yeah. Anywhere in that area of the world, Mexico.
Mexico, they do use a lot of accordions in mariachis,
like
right?
Argentinian tangos, right? That's a lot of what I play.
Yes,
so tango music. Yeah. But you know the movie Amélie, the French movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. That soundtrack is why I play accordion. So it started with Jan Tiersen, playing all those pieces.
Gotcha.
And then it branched out. By the way, even though I'm half German, I'm morally opposed to polkas. So I do not play polkas at all, ever.
I am part German as well. I come from like a family of musicians. My father was a rock musician. My mother's brother was a jazz musician who was very popular in the city in the 70s. I grew up playing horn because that was his instrument. So trumpet, he played trumpet, flugelhorn, and cornet, and he was playing with when he died, Herbie Hancock and Bob James and all these people got together and made an album of all his old songs. So those were the type of people that he played with. A little bit of that progressive, jazzy, electronic stuff, and then a little bit of the very sophisticated progressive jazz. But anyway, so I played horns, and then my dad was a rock, classic rock, folky classic rock. And he can play 40 instruments. He's
one of those.
He can play guitar.
I envy those humans.
Yeah, he can play guitar in ways that just take decades to learn. This is not I sit on my guitar amp in my basement for a couple of years and then I get good at power chords. And he was at one point studying with this guy, Bob Van Helden, who was the teacher of bluegrass finger picking extraordinaire. And that's what he did for 3 years because he was bored with all the other styles and was played flute for 50 years. But anyway, I grew up in New Jersey, which was very white and very Jersey trashy. And it was all rock music. If somebody asked you what your favorite band was, you weren't allowed to say Floyd, Zeppelin, AC/DC, or Black Sabbath. And it had to be something else because those were everybody's favorites. So if you said one of those, it was that's whack. And then when I was 11, we moved to a different area of New Jersey and all of my friends were black and hip hop had just really hit. I mean, it was 83, 84. All I wanted to do was be involved in hip hop. Everything that we did was, and this was the beginning of hip hop was an interesting thing. The culture was really designed so that everybody could participate essentially. You didn't need a particular ability to dance to be able to come up with some little popping move or some little breaking move. You could have just a specialty and not be able to do anything else. And anybody could rap. Like, you didn't have to be a great singer, or if you had a lisp or a speech impediment, that was cool. That worked. So everything was like, please, be part of this culture. I guess when I was 14 or 15, I like signed one of these production deals with a company, and as a rapper, singer-y mixture type thing. And then I went through many incarnations of frontman, or sort of, I went through, of course, all of the very embarrassing rapping over rock music with every rock band that wanted like a rap cameo in my song, bro.
Yes. Yes.
And like I would jump up on stage and do 2 songs with my crazy dreadlocks and the whole thing. And then
you're painting a picture here. It's very, very good. Yeah.
And then by the end of it, like I was like, in my studio making rap demos for every local drug dealer who had $2,000 and was like, I could make a rap song, bro. I could make a rap song. And so that's what we did, is we made rap songs, crappy rap songs for years and years and years. And then I was kind of like doing dance remixes, which felt like non-music, and I kind of started to hate it a little bit. And I was like, man, you could make more money doing something else. Why don't you go do that before you hate music forever?
Good point.
And so I stopped. These days, it's mostly just me with an acoustic guitar singing old songs and writing goofy animal songs. That's about it now.
I like the sound of that. I like the sound of goofy animal songs.
I have actually 2 songs that I really am proud of. I just never do anything with them. And they are very animal focused, not as on the nose as a lot of like the vegan songs, like "Go Vegan."
Oh yeah.
Everybody
Some
said
of those
about
are a
the
little
animals.
cringy.
But but they're borderline on that. But I actually like them. I like them enough to sing them over and over again. So I think that is enough to say that they're probably good music.
That's a sign. Totally. That's awesome. So at the end of this music trajectory, is that when you went into the nutrition training realm, or was there kind of a middle era?
There was a middle era of me always trying to find artistic things to do. Like, I went to a performing arts high school. I went to college for a portion of 1 year for musical theater. But yeah, when I was done with it, I went into like interior design and home furnishings and antiquing. I had like a junk shop, antique shop. It is a junk shop. Like, I had a brass polisher and a welder, and we did all of these sort of things with, taking old antique beds and chopping them up into pieces and turning them into king-size 4-posters and canopies, and making other pieces of beds into ornate lamps and stuff like that. And that's what I did for a while, and then moved into fashion.
Right.
And so I was in fashion for a while. I had like a little accessory line that was like crochet wear with like big studs right into the crochet. And then, I was at FIT, the Fashion Institute of Technology here in New York, which is one of the 2 big fashion schools in the city. I wasn't really trying to get a degree. I was just trying to learn more things and make more cool, fun things and expand and play. I was looking for more creative things. And at the same time, running the White Room at Saks Fifth Avenue at the main location in Manhattan, which is like their most avant-garde, over-the-top, like menswear, $8,000 coats and $20,000 bags and little capsule collections of, like there's Calvin Klein in there, but it's a very small segment of Calvin Klein black that you wouldn't even recognize as Calvin Klein. And there's Jill Sander in there, but it's not a Jill Sander that you would ever see in any other store or even in Saks anywhere else. Like, you would be like, what is that made out of? Every avant-garde material and all, unusual thing. And then I went vegan.
And this is where the vegan menswear and all that kind of trajectory comes in then.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore. So like, I left there and I even got hired to run. Do you know this Canadian brand M0851?
I do not.
So they're like a big French-Canadian brand that is international seller of these handmade bags. It's started by an architect, so really cool stuff. So I'm running their North American hub, which is down in Soho in the city. and it's just leather everywhere. And this dude's like smelling the leather. He's like, and I was cringing. And this guy's looking at me like, you cannot do that in this store. You get my customers, and like there's like a major wholesale customer probably buys millions. I don't know how much they buy. And I'm making disgusting faces at their product. And like that was essentially the realization, this has to stop.
Mm-hmm. And how long ago was that?
That was 11 years ago.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, I think I'm going to leave fashion. There's no way for me to do this. And then Kismet or Karma or one of those weird things, I saw Joshua Catcher talking about, I had known what Brave Gentleman was. Primarily it was just like luxury men's shoes with a few other things. And I saw him saying, I'm going to open this pop-up in the back of Haymaker's Vegan Grocery, which was the old location of Champs. Champs Diner had moved to a new location.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you should hire me. And he was like, what? I'm not hiring anybody. I'm going to do this myself. While it's been around for a long time, it was mostly an online brand and still small, as small as mom and pop gets. And I was like, no, dude, I'm the guy that you should work with because I have a lot of retail experience. I know a lot of things about fashion. I have really interesting ideas. And I think that the two of us could really grow this thing to a different place. And so I went and I ran his pop-up for a little while. And then he decided, let's make a go of it and open a full flagship location right on the main strip in our neighborhood that he lived in as well. And that was it.
Amazing.
And that was it. So moved into vegan fashion, doing all this stuff. And he kept expanding and trying different things. And he's now, I don't know what he does now, but he was also the sustainability teacher at Parsons, which is one of the top fashion schools probably in the country. At least here, it's the top fashion school in New York City, which is one of the capitals of fashion in the world.
That's amazing.
And then I got this certification from Joel Furman's school.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know he has an online school?
Yep.
The Nutritarian Education Institute. And it was very comprehensive, much more so than like the eCornell certification that a lot of people
I know
have.
that one too, yeah.
This one was very in-depth, very sciencey, very, into the weeds. And I was like, oh, I really like this stuff. And then I know Dina, who has this Gristle tattoo shop. It's a funny name for a vegan tattoo shop. Gristle.
It is.
Gristle.
Gristle.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it. And I was like, hey, you're very cool. And she was like, well, I'm opening this nurse practitioner's client. And I was like, I'm going to come over there and be your nutrition counselor. And she was like, really? And so I sat down with her and the other nurse practitioner, and they were like, yeah, he's, really, really knowledgeable. Like all I did was read studies for years and years and just, you have to geek out on this stuff to get good at it.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to want to. If it's not your thing, then don't just do the thing that's your thing. If it's not your thing, you're not going to be really into getting into the weeds, as I said, like that. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm at Brooklyn NP and I'm seeing clients. And What the Health comes out.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was, What the Health comes out. That was like 6 or 7 years ago, yeah?
I think so. Seems about right.
And so, then there was like a registry of plant-based doctors, of vegan doctors.
Mm-hmm.
And we were on that. And people were showing up literally like, I have cancer. Help me cure my cancer. Like, I just had a heart attack. Give me, what do I eat to cure my heart attack? And I was like, I am not qualified for this. My little online certification. I didn't even have a precision nutrition certification yet. And I was like, I feel quite unqualified to help a lot of these people. And this is not really why I got into this. I just want to help people get a little healthier and lose some weight and learn about plant-based nutrition and, a more simple version of that. And so I left and started the workout plan.
Now, you do some level of online work as well, right? And is that the kind of the same clientele, like not necessarily all vegan folks?
They're not all vegan, but I would say a much, much greater ratio of vegans in that circumstance.
That makes sense. Because people are probably seeking out Izzy, the vegan coach, if they're doing the online thing.
That's most of it. Some of it, of course, is just like, I have a client who has a brother who was overweight and wanted to lose some weight in Florida. And so she was just like, this is the guy that I know that I trust the most for evidence-based protocols and advice. and he's really good at creating sustainable things that actually can function in a real regular life, not just I can suffer for 16 weeks during this 16-week challenge. I'm just going to do nothing. I will never go out and have 0 cheat meals or treats or whatever you want to call them, and so some of that people might move away and they continue to stay as clients. But yeah, they're more likely vegan. And it's definitely not the thing I've been focusing on because I think AI is about to take over. I think AI is about to make that shit obsolete. You better up your game.
I don't know about that, Izzy. I don't know. I think, okay, AI is going to take over creating programs for people. No question. I mean, honestly, right now at this point,
It's already, yeah.
you could go and get a half decent workout plan, especially as a beginner, like strength training, 4-day split, whatever the hell.
Yeah.
However, here's the thing that I think is the catch, so to speak.
Okay.
AI is never going to have human relationships. AI is never going to have eyeballs on you to make sure that you did your freaking workout.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
So, yeah, programming, of course. I mean, people already go to YouTube or they have like fitness blender apps or whatever.
Right.
But I think a lot of the times, especially with online coaching, because you can be a little more well-rounded, right? You can creep on people's nutrition logs. You can see every single workout they do.
Yeah.
You can be a little more creative too. Like some of our clients do 10-minute workouts, but every day.
Right.
There's no way they would go to a gym for that. They're doing that at home, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, I feel like the accountability, the relationship, problem solving, life shit comes up. You got to brainstorm, lend an ear. AI is never going to take over that.
I mean, regardless of whether it's the aspects that you're talking about or kind of what I'm about to talk about, I think the human component is definitely always going to be integral. Like, I want to provide an experience. And that's why, people love to come here. I teach them all some kickboxing when they're here, which usually people are just like, I don't want to do that. And then 3 sessions later, it's all they want to do. I just want to come, especially these days. They're like, I want to go.
Oh, yeah.
Can you paint a Trump on that for me? I want to punch a Trump. But, like I have clients who, come to me 2 or 3 times a week. And by the end of the week, they're like, can we just hit something for the first 20 minutes? We'll lift later, I promise. Of course, there's always going to be the human experience. And then regardless of how smart AI gets, it's only as smart as we are. And, right now, it can't discern good source from bad source, considering we're talking about very unsettled sciences. I mean, nutrition science is like maybe one of the most unsettled sciences there is. You can find a mountain of evidence for almost any argument. And if you don't know how to discern fact from fiction and you don't know how to see the difference on a hierarchy of evidence and all this type of stuff, it's kind of hard to figure out what's real and what's not, what's true and what's not. And AI is not very good at that right yet. And it's probably going to be a while before it can figure it out. Right now, it's as dumb as we are. And we, as a collective whole, humans are pretty dumb.
Well, we're not good at discerning. Maybe that's the theme of the conversation. Humans are dumb.
Humans are dumb.
We're not very good at critical thinking, unfortunately. Like, why do we have to wait until grad school, which I did, to actually learn to look at a study and look at what it means and dissect the statistics? How big of an effect is this? What's involved in the results? I didn't do that until grad school. Not even my undergrad did we learn these kind of critical research skills.
I'm teaching it to myself. I'm actually thinking about, do you know that, who is it, Menno, or somebody has like a school that teaches you it's like an online certification that just teaches you how to read studies and assess data.
See, that should be mandatory for everyone in a field like ours.
Yes. Because I mean, how many coaches that we know that seem knowledgeable until you actually get one level deeper than just like the basic surface level shit that they tell everybody. Totally. And then you're like, homie, that's not, come on. You really,
come on now.
Come on. Stop it.
Yeah, well, here's the problem too, though, because we all make a living by coaching folks and helping them with fitness and nutrition and lifestyle, etc. So there's got to be some level of, I'm using air quotes here, marketing involved in order to get new clients. But if you really think about it, like the basic shit that gets people results is boring.
Sure.
doing
Sure.
your workouts regularly, thinking about your nutrition, food prepping, managing stress, etc. It's boring. And if we as coaches showed that like on social media day in, day out, no one would give a shit.
Right. And that's a lot. I talk to my clients a lot about the idea that fitness and nutrition needs to be simple and repetitive.
Yes.
And if your coach or your trainer or the person that you're consuming fitness content from on social media is standing on a Bozu ball and like pressing with one arm and curling with the other arm, run. That's fucking somebody who's like, I ran out of the good ideas. Now I'm going to go to the bullshit that I didn't use to create my physique, that I know is not an efficient use of your time. But or
it's sensationalized, right? It's exciting. People watch it.
Or they think like my clients are going to get bored after 2 weeks if I have them bench press and squat and row again.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah, well, then figure it out. Have a personality and make them bench and squat and row again, please. Like, I just tell everyone, if your workout routine does not revolve around a squat, a push, a pull, and an overhead press, and maybe a hinge and a carry, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how cool and fun it is. You're going to get annoyed in a few months when you don't have any results.
Totally. Or you injure yourself, even worse. I mean, it goes the other way around too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's partially why I do the kickboxing too, and partially why I try to be fun, is just to be sure that people are constantly at least learning something interesting, something fun. And then it's like, all right, now we're going to go squat again. Regardless of what we're doing, we're going to go squat again.
I don't know if the analogy really holds up, but it's kind of like in music, doing your rudiments and your scales and your arpeggios and like stuff that pro musicians do all the time and always tell their students to do too if they have them. It's not exciting. You're not learning new music. You're not playing with a new band. You're doing the basic shit, but it's just as important.
And it's also why a lot of musicians don't ever get really, really good at their craft, is because you sit alone by yourself. And I went through this for years. And it's also why I never really became a great instrumentalist. I'm a good vocalist. I'm a good performer. I can write great songs. I had an entire career off of jumping around on stage and entertaining people. I'm great at that aspect of it. I wasn't even that good of a rapper or a singer, but I'm a great performer. But when I would go to learn guitar, learn keys, or learn anything like that, I'd start fingering exercises and I'm working on it and I'm doing scales. And next thing you know, I'm playing a James Taylor song or an Eagles song because it's a lot more fun, and it's really easy to do. And there's 4 chords and I could do it right now. Or I could just load up some chords and play some goofy new song that I just heard on the radio, which is surely a lot more fun, but you don't progress like that. It's the same.
That's it. Exactly.
Don't progress, really.
Yeah. 100%. Hey, what do you think is, along the same line? Wait. Okay. What?
Do you know what are the little creatures in Despicable Me with the little monocles and the little...
Oh, minions.
That's what I think. Mini minions. Your car.
Oh.
It's like a minion.
Like a minion. Okay, here's a slight hitch, though, is that it's an SUV mini, so it's not actually really small.
What the fuck is that?
Because, dude, my didgeridoo is 7 feet long, which is longer than a fucking Cooper, so it doesn't fit.
Yeah, but it's not a mini. If it's an SUV, it's not a mini. That's like... That is 2 opposing forces that cannot be combined.
It's kind of scandalous.
You can't Voltron like that. You cannot Voltron like that.
But yeah.
I'm sorry. What were you about to ask? That was not a good name. I didn't even come up with a name.
No, it's cool. Along the lines of fitness coaches putting out standing on an overturned Bosu ball, curling with one hand and overhead pressing with the other.
Yeah.
Like, in that world, what else do you see right now in either fitness or nutrition that you're kind of trying to chip away at? Like I often feel like with this show and with our coaching and with the books and whatever else, I feel like I'm chipping away at this huge mountain of pseudoscience.
Yeah.
It's just like mountain of bullshit. And I'm this tiny little corner of the internet over here, just like the tiny little pickaxe,
So
what's your mountain of bullshit that you're picking away at?
All right. So I have a weird relationship with Facebook.
Okay.
And so I used to be a very contentious person on Facebook, and I would get into all kinds of fights in the vegan community or in other social justice communities. And so do you know this gigantic Facebook group, Gym Rats?
Yeah, I think I do. I think I was in it for a while.
So it's like, it got super popular, probably has 500,000 members, and it's an absolute shit show. It's not a serious place. This is not a place that you go if you want good science very often.
Okay.
But, and I've been kicked out. There was
This
my
is a
air
good
quotes.
sign. Okay.
Yeah. So I am no longer in the group. But when I was in the group, I sometimes would use it like just as a jokey place to mess around, but also there are, the carnivore diet is very popular these days in some of these circles. So there's a lot of these guys experimenting with that fucking nonsense. A lot of it was spending time teaching people about the misnomer of incomplete proteins, which I was talking about a lot in that group. And I was trying to explain to people that they don't understand that, first of all, the woman who coined the term even regrets writing about it in her book.
She retracted that whole concept. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's just like, look, it's not that I'm wrong. It's just that the way I expressed it misled an entire generation and then successive generations of people to think about this in the wrong way. Yes, there are protein sources that have slightly inferior amino acid profiles, but it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter. Because unless you were sitting around eating 2,000 calories of broccoli today, which nobody on the history of...
And every other day of the week, too.
Nobody in the history of eating, which is all of time, has ever fucking done that.
Yep.
Your body engages in protein resequencing and has amino acid pools and a cache of those. And beyond all of that, I just keep constantly reposting these links to PubMed to show them metas and systematic reviews, mountains of evidence showing that once higher protein levels are met, there's just no amino acids that you're going to be short on in any reasonable combination of plant-based foods. Any of them whatsoever. Never mind the idea that we're in a bodybuilding group and all of you use protein powder just like I use protein powder. And by the time I'm taking this, that's another buffer to be sure that. And then we get into this conversation about the quality of evidence, because they're going to go find Sean Baker or some other fraud or some other quack that has an idea that's going to lie to them or misrepresent evidence or cherry pick and stretch it out. And I'm constantly telling them, why are you looking for these fringe weirdos? I also do not go to fringe, air quotes again, weirdos. In the vegan community, I do not source my evidence from Gregor or from...
Me neither.
Any of these guys, any of the classic guys that you would see in a vegan documentary or any of this stuff. I'm just going to go to Aragon or Menno or the ISSN or anybody and show you these people are not proponents of a plant-based diet. They don't eat vegan. They never will. Then, BioLane or Barvo Medicine or Stronger by Science or any of these groups are not big proponents of this stuff, but they all say the exact same thing. Don't be a goofball and think you need to worry about incomplete proteins or I can't build muscle on this. Those are my biggest things, is trying to get a bunch of bros to stop being bro-ish, to stop with the bro science.
Hey, this is an overarching theme. Let's stop the broing.
Yeah.
I think needs to happen in fitness in general.
Yeah.
I'm in a similar Facebook group. Do you know Rate My Plate?
Yeah.
I think you might be in it too.
Yeah.
Kind of a shit show. But again, I'm in there just to like post random shit, poke a little fun at the meatheads or whatever.
Right. Same thing.
And I go into this fully knowing that I'm doing it for my own amusement, right? I mean, I realize
of course.
There's a point where this kind of stuff negatively affects people's mental health, right? If they're constantly having arguments about veganism and blah, blah, blah.
And you're not going to really move the needle in most of these conversations. Really.
Not at all. 100% no. So I'm going into it, A, for my own amusement, because I think it's hilarious, and B, for the people who happen to be
Right.
watching,
Yeah.
right? So it's not the actual person that I'm responding
Yes.
to that I don't think I'm going to change their mind at all.
Yes.
But there's a lot of folks who just kind of poke around. They may or may not interact.
Yep.
But they're in there. They're watching,
I have a dozen or two Facebook friends from that Gym Rats group that either
No way.
were vegan or attempted a plant-based diet at some point or were thinking about it. And now we're like, bro, it's so cool to see a big 200-pound guy who is knowledgeable and proving that these things work and articulating the points with enough science that it makes sense and not so much that it becomes dull and undigestible, speaking of food. But yeah, I mean, it's you influence a few people. You always do a little bit, and that's fun too. But yes, I have to admit, most of it is just cathartic. I just want to go poke the bear a little bit. And then I poked the bear
exactly
2 months and they threw me out because I was making fun of them. The fucking steroid heads, the juice heads. It's a literal epidemic right now. Did you see the study that it said more than 30% of the average gym goers in the U.S. are on some sort of PED?
I did not. Is this all gym goers or just dude gym goers?
All gym goers, every age range, not just powerlifting gyms, not every crunch and 24-hour, 30%. Do you know that in the UK, because it's legal, more than 40% are at least on TRT or test or a little bit of Anavar, a little bit of, I don't even know because I've never taken any of these things. But I'm in there. I'm just disgusted by the idea that it's become a thing you got to do, man. You really want results, you got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, it would be a horrible thing to be a vegan and on those same steroids because then it's just like, well, come on, you wouldn't be able to do it without the steroids. And then if I say, well, you wouldn't be able to get to where you got without the steroids, and they're like, how do you know? I'm a hard worker. You got to work hard too. With that whole thing,
I feel like that's the incomplete protein real quote argument. It's not that they think it's legit. They're just trying to poke anything towards veganism, right?
Yes.
So, I could tell someone in Rate My Plate, for example, let's use that shitstorm as an example. I'm posting like fava bean tofu. Someone says, ew, that's gross.
Right.
Or I'm on a carnivore diet or whatever the hell.
Right.
I'm like, well, fava bean tofu has more protein per calorie than like 99% of animal products, right? It's like 91% of the calories in fava bean tofu, straight up protein.
Which is amazing.
Then you get into, but incomplete protein. But blah, blah, blah.
Oh, but what's the bioavailability of that?
It comes later in the priority of trolling, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I have to admit that I do regret from that group is I was poking the hunters.
Uh-huh.
And hunters are at the same time the most aggressive people that you can encounter in these groups and the most sensitive fuckers that you can encounter in these groups. And so this girl posts a picture of herself fishing and she's got a fish. And I'm like, and I wrote creepy or something like that, just a little poke.
Yes.
And she was like, what are you talking about? I have to feed my family. And I said, lady, you don't feed your family fishing out of that stream. You might eat those fish, but the majority of the food you buy, like every other hunter, is from the grocery store in plastic wrap. But anyway, I was saying, I said I don't kill for fun. And she was like, I don't kill for fun. I was like, yeah, you do. You kill. That's what you're doing right now. I'm feeding my family. No, you're not. You don't. You do it because you like it. You don't need to eat that. You don't need to do it in that way. And then she tries to go through this. Well, I throw most of them back.
Okay.
Well, when you rip that fish's jaw in half and then throw it through the air back into the water, how many of those do you think die? 0. And so I start posting studies and blah, blah, blah. And so this is my biggest regret of being in that group. She was so vindictive and so crazy that she went and found my Google business listing and gave me and created fake accounts and gave me 1-star reviews and dropped my rating of my business over a 5-minute squabble in the Gym Rats group about hunting. So
that's happened to me with the podcast.
Gotta be careful.
Same exact thing. Yeah, you gotta be careful. Yeah, it's happened. Multiple fake accounts, all the same person.
Right.
They're all very similar. Things about, I don't know, disseminating harmful information, etc. It's all the same shit.
Yeah. The funniest part was at this time I was still working out of the second bedroom in my apartment, and she wrote, "The bathrooms are disgusting and the staff is rude." And my clients did nothing but laugh at my cats. And rude. That's a rude, because the only staff I have is my cats. Is my
Yes, of course.
wellness ambassadors that everybody would meet on the way in, and they would just walk in and say, "You are rude." And I was like, "Lady, I have bathroom. I don't even have bathrooms. I have bathroom." Like, and
That's funny.
it's not. I don't have any staff. Couldn't even get Google to take it down either. I was like, this person lives 1,000 miles away from me, and I don't have bathrooms. I don't have staff. Like, how do I get this thing taken down? Why is this allowed? Anyway.
Oh, that's super annoying. Yeah. Okay. So that's actually something, even though this podcast thing happened to me with reviews, it's kind of something I forgot about. So this is a good reminder, especially for folks who run their own show.
Yeah.
Be a little careful in poking those trolls, I mean, as fun as it is.
Yeah, I mean, you never know what some unhinged person might decide they need to do to make themselves feel good that day and take it a step further.
Mhm.
And I mean, this is when I went and looked at her Google account, I saw like, this is her thing.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
I saw multiple other businesses where it was like, there were bed bugs. There was a broken this. I got food poisoning here.
Yes.
It's just and it wasn't even necessarily an anti-vegan thing. It was anywhere she decided that she needed to lash out. But anyway, yeah, silly stuff.
Well, noted on that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hey, let's wrap things up. So where can people find you and your services, Workout Plant, etc.?
TheWorkoutPlant.com is my website, where you can find stuff that I'm doing and goofy little articles about how to get yourself to drink more water. And I just have a new article coming out about my transition, because before I went plant-based, I was actually disabled for about 3 years and essentially bedridden. I was in bed like 23 hours a day. I was obese. I was more than 250 pounds. And this article is about the steps that I went through to come back from this level of disability and bad health to the place that I'm at, and then I'm creating a program for some of the local elderly community and differently able, less abled community and sedentary community to use the same steps and walking and Iyengar yoga and all of these things that I used to regain my health and my mobility. So you can find those things on theworkoutplant.com as well. And my gym is here in crazy ass Williamsburg, Brooklyn, where all of the silliness happens, on Frost Street for the local people. But you can find me on Google or via that. I also do run an animal activist campaign called Animals First on the Second. And you can find that at animalsfirstonthesecond.com or fastagainstslaughter.org.
Brilliant.
And that's about it.
That's awesome, Izzy. Well, it's been great to chat. I'm glad we could